Have you tried the new Pinpoint disposables yet? They're seriously smooth. They're so small they fit in that little coin pocket in your jeans. They're easy to use and they hit just right. And whether you're trying to chill or vibe or take things up a notch, these compact size vapes bring the flavor and the effects without any hassle. Just grab one, take a hit, and you're good to go. They're perfect for when you're on the move or just kicking back, and they're definitely worth checking out. And if you want to check out more about Pinpoint vapes, check out pinpoint-extracts.com.
Welcome to Greenway Audio Magazine. I'm Tim Pickett, and with me is Brandon Dunn. Brandon, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well, Tim. How are you today, man?
I'm doing great. This is an episode I've been looking forward to for a while. And we are talking to the legendary Adolphus Busch of Teal.
Love Adolphus Busch. I love the Teal brand. I love the Hi-Five brand. Love the Kusch brand. Really interesting story about the Kusch brand, and super excited for the launch of their next brand that he dives into a little bit in the conversation. But the thing that I'm excited about right now, you and me, the thing that I'm excited to talk about is this episode comes out, week or two before 420.
Yeah.
I want to talk to my friend Tim.
Yeah.
I want to talk to him about some of the hardware that we like. So we talk a lot of business. We talk a lot of personal, stories and things like that. I want to get some deep cuts on some of the hardware and some of the toys that you like to use in your personal business. Some of the things that really enhance your experience, some of those toys that really bring it to the next level. Sure. And of course we're talking about weed accessories, guys.
Yeah.
Hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. I am not a huge hardware guy. I'm not a huge flower guy. It's very rare just because of the situation I'm in at home with kids and stuff. So I'm a pen guy. So I found out about Vessel pens, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And that's pretty much been my go-to since. They are so freaking slick. I have 2 different varieties of it and they look awesome. I have like a wood, kind of like a wood grain thing. It looks really neat. I also have a G pen. Those are my 2. But I'm mainly gummies, and gummies don't really have accessories except maybe like a gummy little box. And I wouldn't buy one of those because I actually like it when they get hard and stale. I do.
Is that true?
Yeah. Like I'll leave the baggie open. Let's get into your stuff.
This is a great start. I'm like, hey, I want to talk about hardware, and you're like, I fucking hate hardware.
Yeah, I don't have any. I mean, I have 2 things of hardware.
I don't like it. I don't want to talk about it.
I've been using them for years. And I mean, so when I read the article on Greenway, on the patient side, the 420 hardware gift guide, I actually was like, I hope we get to talk about this because I need to learn more about this stuff anyway. So if you will guide this gift guide, I will sit here and listen because I don't know much about a humidor or the DaySavers Perfect Pack. So if you wouldn't mind kind of getting into that, I will sit here and listen and take notes.
You can think of me as your hardware Sherpa. I shout out to Brittany Dunn, no relation, who, speaking of Adolphus, works as brand ambassador and on the ground marketing for Teal and their house of brands. She is one of the most engaging people to have a smoke session with. You sit down and she will sit there and she'll have a collection of different items to sample or to try, and she'll let you smell it. She'll show it to you, and she'll give you a breakdown of, this is what this cultivar is, this is the lineage, and these are the terpenes and the cannabinoids and things as she goes through it. And I truly appreciate and love the experience of smoking with her, because I genuinely think of her as like a tour guide through the entire experience of cannabis. So I'm going to try and be Tim
Yeah.
Pickett's personal tour guide,
Thank you.
personal Sherpa up the mountain of hardware
Okay.
in the cannabis industry right now, because there's a lot of it. And
There is.
we've been doing
There
these
is.
gift guides and these suggestions and reviews and things for several years. Tammy from uh, well, from everywhere,
From
but
everything.
specifically with Run THC. She's been doing reviews and product reviews for a long time. We've been able to share some of her stuff in the past. But there's so many different things from so many different companies that sometimes it's overwhelming. So usually around the holidays and 420, we try and drop a little gift guide or a buyer's guide to navigate some of the newer things or even some of the older things that have been out there. And this year, a few of those things happen to involve Vessel. You just talked about Vessel being your
Yes.
favorite vape pen battery company.
Right.
We actually are giving away, you and I are giving away in celebration of 420 a Vessel bundle for the new Tide kit. Just so happen to have my own right
Yep.
here.
Those are their
This
packs.
this little baby's called the Tide, and it is a carry case that inside of it, you can load up the carbon lighter,
Yeah.
the pipe, the mill grinder, and then I usually stash a little bit of flour over there in that pocket.
Those are smell
But
proof, by the way.
yeah,
Those are their cases for their vape batteries too, and no smell leaks out of there.
but the reason that we included it, not only are we giving it away, but the reason we included it is because it's so stellar. So the pipe, you can disassemble, easy cleanup. It's super substantial whenever it's in your hand, and this is why this is one of my favorite pipe products on the market right now, is because the disassemblage is it took 2
I love
seconds.
that.
This fixture is super heavy. But yeah, we talk in the article about the value and about the quality of the things that Vessel makes. That pipe is my favorite little one-hitter tool in the market right now. The case, as you've mentioned, is pretty substantial, pretty sturdy. The grinder, as opposed to it's called the mill, but as opposed to some of the grinders that you see in the space, is extremely lightweight for as substantial as it is. Now, I will say that it doesn't have as much depth as I like, but it has the proper depth for the pipe. Whenever
Okay.
I'm rolling, I may roll, a couple grams, 3-4 grams at a time whenever I'm rolling a pre-roller, a joint or a blunt or something. That is the thing that keeps me from overpacking the pipe.
Oh,
The
yeah.
mill is, in my opinion, designed with the proper content for the pipe. One of the other things that we talk about is the Zone Opto, and as a vape guy, you and I both love our vapes. We're both big edibles guys, but I'm a breath draw guy. On my all-in-ones, I love a breath draw. Timeless does it. Several other companies have moved to it, especially with all-in-ones now. Uh, but I've never been a big battery guy. And then I got my first Vessel battery a couple years ago. And one of the things I loved about it was that it was magnetic on the stand and wireless charging.
Mhm.
And so I could just drop it in there. The Zone Opto has changed my opinion on batteries overall,
Okay.
because We say this in the article. It's not user friendly out of the box. It's not one of those that you can pull it out of the box and immediately know exactly what you're doing with it and know all the ins and outs of it. I'm a big pull it out, start messing with it, start building it guy. I had difficulties in trying to do that. A couple of the other people that I had sample it had the same experience, but in taking the time to actually read the directions, which apparently you're supposed to do with most things in
Yeah, you
general,
are.
in taking the time to read the directions, it gives you substantially more control over the product that you're smoking than most experiences are. It has specific settings to get a higher plume as far as the vapor. It has specific settings to increase the temperature so that you're getting a bigger draw or a smaller draw. And it has a temperature setting that's supposed to preserve more cannabinoids if you're smoking live resin and things like that. The control element of it and the ease of use once you know what you're doing and once you've read the directions, for the price point, made it one of my favorite vape batteries. And honestly, uh, I think that going forward, I will be more inclined to go towards things that have more control elements
Mm-hmm.
than to steer away from them, because the ease of use was outweighed by the functionality, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Because so the reason I even went towards Vessel and started looking into stuff like that is years ago, I was worried that the all in ones at the time were cheaply put together and it'd be melting plastic and I'd be inhaling stuff outside of what I was supposed to be inhaling. And that really worried me. If you remember that brief amount of time when people were dropping dead from vaping or something like that, and then that whole thing went away, it
Well,
did
that
scare me for a second,
it should have, and there were a couple reasons to that. Number one, there were hardware issues, and still are. Cheap hardware is known to leach, microplastics. It's known to leach metal toxicity and things like that if it's not the right type of hardware and things. One of the big things we're seeing in all-in-ones. Uh, we recently we talk a lot about the pinpoints. Their new all-in-one has ceramic cores.
Right.
And so
Yes.
a lot of companies are moving towards the all-in-one, but they're also moving towards more substantial hardware for the all-in-one.
Yes.
Um,
That I have
and
noticed that as well.
Indie
Um,
Vape's another good example of that. We've talked about that with Lori from Headset a while back. Not to consistently name drop Tim from Timeless, but Timeless's all-in-ones are great quality breath draw. The Sense live resin bars that they came out with last year are fantastic. The Buoyant Bobs, I I can't speak to the overall quality because I don't know what they've manufactured them with, but just as far as pure appeal, the Buoyant Bob little mini, it's literally the size of my thumbnail, um, is such a fun disposable vape, that I really enjoy it. The user experience has been great on it. But for companies that, don't produce all-in-ones, or that produce both all-in-ones and 510s, uh, I like the more I've learned about cannabis, the more I like having control over my experience. And having a battery, Vessel has a few different settings on it. Having a battery that was more interactive with the zone, uh, I felt gave me more control over the experience. I smoked a few distillate carts with it. I smoked a few live resin carts with it. And I was able to customize my experience each time. Sometimes I wanted just massive clouds and stuff like that. Um, Sometimes I just wanted it to burn a little bit slower and get more out of it. It also keeps track on your temperature settings of how many draws you have left
Stop.
based on that temperature setting, which was really really fun for me. I enjoyed that. Um, I'm just
Okay.
saying, little LCD screen, thumb touch. It's nice.
Damn.
Um,
Okay.
probably gonna have to try it.
I think I
Um,
might.
one of the other things that we talked about in the gift guide was the Riot Humidor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I'm not a big humidor guy. I've always kept my stuff either in a gun safe or in a locked. We have a giant tool chest as a kitchen island because it locks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put all my stuff in smell-proof bags and then lock it. And the top shelf is all the knives and cutlery and stuff, and then on down. And then the bottom shelf is like our blender and stuff like that. But then the middle shelves are like my emergency gummies and vapes and stuff that I don't keep in the fire safe. Um, So I guess what I'm saying is go out and buy yourself a giant toolbox to
Yeah.
use as a kitchen island. No, that what I was saying though is I've never really worried about humidity control and things like
Hmm.
that. And the humidor really gave me a different opinion on climate control for it because while I tend to store my flour in glass jars. What I did to test this out was I left some of it in the original packaging. I put some of it in glass jars, and then some of it I went ahead and rolled and left as pre rolls or blunts in there. And I will say that the flour that was in the original packaging and the flour that I had already rolled. Um, seem to be substantially better than having just left it, in what I normally store it in.
Okay.
The humidor also locks itself. Pretty sturdy little box.
Are those
Got
keys?
the Yeah, man. It's got these fancy little like old school music box keys. Um, Pretty substantial thing. It was a lot lighter than I expected it to be.
Hmm.
Whenever you look at it and you see that it's walnut, you expect it to be, 5-10 pounds, substantially lighter than what I thought it would be, which was great because that meant whenever I stuffed some glass jars in it and stuff, it wasn't, a 20-pound thing being lugged in and out every time I got it or messed with it
Mm-hmm.
or wanted to roll or show it off, honestly, to some other folks or anything like that. Um, the last thing that's on our hardware gift guide this
Mm-hmm.
year is the DaySavers Perfect Pack, and I've had some extensive conversations with the DaySavers team, and we've highlighted them a few different times on Greenway in the magazine. But one of the biggest reasons that I'm such a fan of DaySavers is because they were really trailblazing early on when. Uh, what they saw was people smoking from other paper companies and things like that. And in markets where they were doing pre rolls and things, they would fail lab testing for smokable product for pre rolls. And what was happening was the papers that some of these companies were using were actually not the flour was fine, but the papers themselves would have trace elements or trace chemicals and things like that in it, and so it could cause a fail test. Day Savers is the consumer version of Custom Cones USA. Custom Cones USA is one of the largest uh, manufacturer partners in the country for pre-roll tubes and paper products for the cannabis industry. Um, DaySavers has tested time and time and time again and shown that all of their paper line has no residuals in it. You know, everybody got excited about rose petals and palm leaves and all these other things. Those all had things that you you could not pass testing
Interesting.
for because of the way they were grown
Mm-hmm.
and the way they were treated. And so you're buying cannabis, and then it's gone through all the testing phases. It's safe cannabis, and then you're putting it in something that has the same contaminants that you're not allowed to put in your cannabis, and then smoking it. Um, Day Savers to me is one of the hallmarks of consumer brand goods for
Mm-hmm.
that reason, that
Yeah.
I always trust that they're doing things the right way and they're providing product that is high level. And so we included the perfect pack because I'm not a big roller. I don't want to invest the time in rolling 20 pre-rolls. I want to roll one giant one, or not mess with it. And with the perfect pack, you basically become your own little pre-roll manufacturing
Yeah.
facility in the privacy of your own home. You pop out pre-rolls that are consistent, even, and super user friendly. Just a really nice addition. I grew up watching my grandpa roll his own hand roll cigarettes, and then he got a Tops machine back in the 80s or 90s, and he went from hand rolling them every Sunday to make enough to last for the entire week, to just using his little machine a couple times throughout the week. And that's the same thing that the perfect pack does. I love whenever we can take pre-rolls are obviously a big part of the industry, but they don't always have exactly what you want. And I love the ability to go and find the cultivar that I want from a dispensary and come home and be able to break it down and use it in multiple different methods. I may use it in a dry herb vape. I may use it in a pre-roll. I may use it with the vessel pipe. um, I've got three different options right there, and I get to do it in multiple different ways by breaking it down myself. And so that's always one of the big things for me.
Yeah.
Not included this year, the big pink thing behind me is a student gloss, which is a gravity hookah bong. And talk about breaking down flour and using it in a fun way.
Yeah.
That is one of my all-time favorite hardware devices, is the student glass. Mine is a Barbie pink mini. Um, and if you've never had a gravity bong, or you've never had a hookah before, um, the the most enjoyable part for me is whenever we're in a setting of 21 and up adults who enjoy recreational cannabis use together, and being able to load up a bowl and then have a hose that whenever you flip the chamber, it just spurts smoke out into disperses evenly to all
Yeah.
those around.
Okay.
um Big fan of the student glass.
That's awesome. So that is the 420 hardware gift guide currently
It is
on Greenway.
the student
Yeah.
gloss isn't on there, but
Right.
it's a personal favorite.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah. But what we've got for this year is a selection of new and updated items from some of our favorite hardware manufacturers in the space.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue into Adolphus Busch and all of the products that he has out there right now with Teal and Hi-Five, that you can utilize some of this
And
hardware
Kusch.
and
And
Kush.
Kusch. Mhm.
So up next,
Kusch.
Kush. Up next is our interview with Adolphus.
He's such a good guy.
Great guy.
When you demand the finest, every detail matters. At Teal Cannabis, they don't just create products, they craft experiences. From their expertly extracted concentrates to their carefully rolled pre-rolls and precision-engineered vapes, every product is crafted with the highest standards in mind. They believe in quality that speaks for itself. That's why they ensure that each Teal product delivers a smooth, consistent experience every time. Teal Cannabis. Elevate your experience.
So welcome back to Greenway Audio Magazine. We now have Adolphus Busch, CEO of Teal, with us today, and we're going to get into a little bit of conversation about you, Teal, Hi-Five, Kusch, and the soon-to-be Current, which is going to be your retail brand as well. But the first question I wanted to start with was, you guys were big fans of 420 activations and activities and cool events and things like that. You guys have something really cool going on this year. Did you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so well, the dinner series, if that's what you're talking about, we've got a fun dinner series going on right now with Belief and Suede. Suede actually started this dinner series called Best Buds, and it's a dinner series that we've been doing, I guess, now for the last probably year and a half, I would say. Maybe they started at the beginning of 2024. I can't remember exactly, but we've done, I think, 5 total infused dinners now with Belief and Suede for that Best Buds dinner series. It's called the Best Buds Happier Hour. We partner with a local restaurant, and Belief and Suede promote their brands. We also bring the active ingredient that they infuse these dinners with, and that's Hi-Five Stirables. So that's our water soluble THC powder that we are compliantly uh, acquiring from a dispensary the legal way, and then we are using at one of these private dinner events where they are completely private. You do have to buy a ticket, and you have to be obviously 21 or older to come to one of these infused dinner series events. And they've been great. You know, it's a great way for the public to start to, I guess, get together for a more formal or much more casual dinner where they can enjoy a nice meal that's either not infused or they can determine if they want to infuse it. Typically, how we will infuse meals is by creating some sort of topping that's infused with Hi-Five Stirables so that the um, attendee of the event can determine whether they want to try the meal infused or if they just want to have the meal and not have it infused and just mingle with friends. That's totally fine as well. But it's been a huge success. We've also had a lot of other restaurants reach out to us over the past year or so wanting to get involved and either do a dinner series of their own or join and be part of the Best Buds Happier Hour dinner series. So we do have a few more infused dinners coming up this year outside of that Best Buds infused dinner series as well. We've got one coming up with Winslow's Table on Del Mar in U City, which is actually very close to where I used to live when I first moved back to St. Louis from Colorado. Awesome restaurant, farm to table. We're going to be doing an infused dinner with them. And we've had a few other restaurants reach out as well. So we're in the works of creating a few other infused dinners with different local restaurants.
That's great. And I know one of the things somebody might ask if they're not too familiar with infused dinners is, well, I don't want my, mashed potatoes tasting like weed. Stirables is unflavored, right? So you're just mixing it in. You can't even really tell.
Yeah, that's accurate. You know, especially with the 5 milligram stick packs. So we
Right.
right now on the market we have 3 different SKUs. We've got the 100 milligram, which is 25 milligram servings. We've got the 300 and we've got the 500. So the 300 would be 20 15 milligram servings. The 500 would be 20 25 milligram servings. Now, when you get up to the 25 milligram serving, if you're familiar with the taste of cannabis oil or distillate, it is going to be a little bit bitter. But when we're talking about the 5 milligram stick packs, you can put it right on top of your food or
Put it in water.
directly in your mouth or in water, just with a little bit of water, and it really doesn't change the flavor of the water much at all. So
Right.
we don't say tasteless, but we do say unflavored because there is hardly any flavor to it, especially in the low potency.
Got it.
Yep.
I think that's one of the reasons that Stirables resonated so much with everybody was because the other products that were on the market that were similar were not necessarily bad, but I don't think they went as far out of their way to promote the diversity that you guys did of what you can do with it. Everybody else just kind of looked at those as drink additives. And I've had a lot of conversations with Dallas where I'm like, I'm making bolognese this week. And shout out to Dallas Henderson, by the way. The marketing genius behind a lot of what's going on at Teal and Hi-Five and Kusch. But I'd be like, I'm making bolognese this week. I'm going to put Stirables in it. And she's like, yeah. Now you got to do this, this, and this, hot tea, ice cream, whatever. And it's like, wow, like stuff I wouldn't even think of. She'd be like, yeah, try it like this. So,
yeah, I mean, just looking at the Winslow's, the Winslow's event, it has red hot riplet chicken skin crackers. Never would have thought of that. And then on the opposite end, you have cinnamon sugar donut. I never would have thought of putting Stirables into some sort of like sugary substance to put on a donut or some sort of dessert. It's brilliant. I never even thought of that. And you're right, Brandon. When I saw Stirables originally and Ripple and stuff like that, I just thought, oh, something you throw in a drink. I never thought of this completely different world that has so many options.
Yeah, and it's great too for whether it be an infused dinner or whether it be just like a night out with your friends. Let's say you're either not a drinker at all or you're doing dry January. The cool thing about it is, and I actually tried this on Saturday just to remind myself again before this, coming on and speaking with you guys, just how quickly it hits you too. I took it on Saturday. I drank it with my morning coffee on Saturday, and just a 5 milligram packet because my edible tolerance is pretty low. Within 15 minutes or so, I could start to feel the effects, and I feel like they kind of hit me to their full potential within 25 minutes of taking the product. So it just shows, like, whether it be an infused dinner where they're serving courses and you may have a 15-minute gap in between courses, it's better because you have a less chance of over consuming because you can start to feel the effects. Then you can determine quicker whether, hey, do I want my second or my third course to be infused, or do I feel good now and I can ask them to not infuse my second or third or fourth course so that you don't overdo it. And then a night out with friends as well. If you're not drinking and you're putting a 5 milligram Stirables packet into your first few drinks, and you don't know maybe your tolerance yet, you can have that first drink, and within 15 minutes, you should know if you can, 15 to 30 minutes, you should know if you can put more in and if you need more to hit your desired threshold. Now, again, just side note, I know everybody has a different body. Everybody has different enzymes in their digestive system. So you should give it, especially the first time you try it, you should give it an hour to really feel the full effects. But once you understand the Stirables product, then you realize how quickly it hits you, and you can better dose yourself.
That makes sense.
I would say that as somebody that's a big edibles person, I'm probably more edibles than anything as far as consumption. The difference in time between Hi-Five and a lot of other gummies is the same as what you're describing with the Stirables. The Hi-Five gummies, for some reason, consistently hit me around that 15 to 25 minute mark. And, that's still a little bit quicker than most of them. Most of them, I would say, is closer to half an hour. But I'll take a gummy every once in a while from a different operator, and it'll have, an hour-long onset, and I'm like, is it broken? Am I broken? Am I wrong? Because I've gotten so accustomed to it, and I've told you this for years, and I've told other people this, publicly. But to me, just my personal preference, the Huckleberry Lemonade is the quintessential gummy in this state. Now, the rosin fruit Freddy infused crispies from Good Taste are, out of this world. The chocolate chip cookies from Heartland, amazing. Crumble on down the list. Everybody's got something that they should be super proud of. The peanut butter and jelly gummy from Cosmic, it was awesome. The Baja Blast flavored one that they can't call Baja Blast from Tsunami is really good. Ozark Dew, that's what it's called.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah. But for me, my favorite has always been Huckleberry Lemonade. And because I've become so conditioned to that onset of, 15, 25 minutes, if I try something and I even as a seasoned user, I still have that impulse to double down and be like, oh, it's not working yet. And thankfully for myself, I've refrained from doing that a few times. I did not refrain from doing that at Topgolf recently, and I regretted it. I think I was about 150 milligrams deep by the end of a 3-hour Topgolf session, and I'm normally like a 5 to 10 milligram guy, but we had good times, real good times.
You had to call someone to pick you up that night.
Oh yeah.
Just a big fan of what you guys do, and I do think that you guys do it very uniquely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that positive feedback. We've been in the market with the gummies for, really since 2021 when we entered the market, and starting with Huckleberry Lemonade and Strawberry Watermelon as our first two SKUs into the market, all the way back in, I guess, when we launched in August of 2021. And again, we're not, the gummy space is definitely the most saturated space, along with the distillate cartridge space in this industry specifically. And we've done really well, even with all the big national brands coming in. Hi-Five has remained a really strong gummy in the market. We did have 20 servings per container and still do, unlike a lot of gummies. So that was one of our differentiating factors in the beginning, having 20 servings. You can microdose easier, or you can eat more gummies because they taste so great. And a few other things that differentiate our formula from others. But, it's tough for any brand to survive when the big guys like Wana and Groon and Smokies are in the market. And it just shows the quality of the product that we've produced and some of the differentiators. They've still remained strong, and we've never sold as many gummies as we are right now. So it's, great news for us.
That's awesome. So as far as something that I have noticed is you've been able to kind of marry some of your outside hobbies and your business. So, it looks like just from social media, you do a lot of like outdoorsman stuff, and it seems I can see a little of that bleeding into the Teal brand. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Hi-Five is obviously not a brand name that is associated with like, an animal, but Teal is. Hi-Five was developed just because we had the name for so long. We were so interested in using it, and we finally got to a place where we had our own infrastructure and we're producing our own products out of our own facility. Unlike how I used to run my brand out in the Colorado market through a co-packing or a licensing deal. But Hi-Five just seemed to be kind of the perfect name for the industry. And there's more to it than that, which I can get into in a little bit. But Teal specifically is absolutely kind of embodies where we're located, and also embodies a lot of the values that have been values of mine, but also values of my family going back way, way, way back in the day to really my great grandfather who started Anheuser-Busch. And you can see with Anheuser-Busch how, at least before the sale took place, and still they use a lot of animals in their marketing, but just how much animals and just conservation and the environment meant to that company, and still does, but especially when my family was running it. That's something that carried over to me. Just a value of mine has always been conservation and preserving the land, specifically in the area that we're in, for all of the animals who use it year round and for those who just use it for part of the year, like the teal duck, what teal is named after. Um, we are right in the Mississippi Flyway. We have quite a bit of land where we're located. So my great grandfather or great grandfather bought the first parcel of land where I'm sitting right now, back in 1910. And my grandfather then continued to build onto that property, and so did my father, and his brothers before my father bought my uncles out of the property. Um, but it's, we have a conservation easement on all the land that surrounds where we are right here. This is the only piece of land which is on the very corner of the property that's out of the both 100 and the 500-year floodplain, so we don't have to worry about obviously any floods taking down our operations.
Mhm.
But this is the only, and it's 8.3 acres. This is the only piece of property on the farm that's out of the conservation easement and out of the floodplains. So we were still able to build on this 8.3 acre piece of property. And the rest of the farm, which is around 2,000 acres, is all under a conservation easement. It's heavily used by all waterfowl animals, so all different species of ducks, teal being one of them. A ton of different types of geese as well. From about September all the way through, they're still on the property. I went on a walk with my dogs yesterday, and there's still hundreds of ducks out there in the duck lakes right now because there's still water out there. We've gotten a lot of moisture. There's still corn out there, and there's hundreds of ducks still out there. But a lot of those ducks may stay year round. Most of them, travel from Canada all the way down to South America. And this is a huge stopping ground, specifically in November, December, and January. There's thousands and thousands of ducks in this area, and it's just cool to see. It's been a big part of my life since I was born. And just conservation and preserving the land out here has been a big part of my life. So the teal duck, small, fast flying duck, has a big green patch on its wing. And they're the first ducks to arrive, and sometimes, are still remaining even this late in the year. Um, so they mean a lot to me. Small, fast flying duck, very agile. Kind of, it just happened to be kind of the perfect name for our company. So that's how we chose the name.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so cool because each one of the brands that you guys have, you have Teal, which is the umbrella brand that stretches over everything, and then you have Hi-Five, which in my opinion is one of the most brilliant brandings in the space because of all the different things that it means and you can do with it. And then you launched Kusch last year.
Yep.
And coming up this year, you guys will be launching your first retail brand.
Correct. Yes. Current Cannabis.
Current Cannabis. Okay.
Yep.
Let's get into
Now,
this.
is that based off of the Current River?
So it's not based off of the Current River. However, it plays in Missouri. It worked out perfectly because not only are we kind of close to, and I may screw this up a little bit because I think it is the headwaters, but kind of close to the headwaters of Current, and just the Current River in general. We're pretty close to. Now we're in South County. You got to go further south and a little bit more west to make it to the Current River. But the Current River in Missouri is probably one of the prettiest rivers in Missouri. Some of the cleanest water that you see in a river in Missouri. I've heard, I actually haven't been down there to do a lot of fishing, but I've heard it's great fishing. Um, the reason I actually came up with the name Current is, again, my passion for the outdoors and passion for just, land preservation and the environment. Rivers is one of my biggest passions. So, I went to school in Colorado back in 2009, largely because of two things. Because I loved the mountains and I loved snowboarding, and I still do love snowboarding. It's a huge passion of mine. I grew up skiing. changed to snowboarding when I was 11 or 12 years old. And it's just been a huge passion of mine that I go out of my way a couple times a year to make sure that I can make it to a mountain with friends and get some runs in, get some ski days in on the mountain. Um, and then rivers, I've been a very passionate whitewater kayaker since I was probably, I guess, 6 or 7 years old. I started out in an inflatable kayak with my dad and going on, a couple river trips out in Idaho mainly. And then we met a guy on the river one day who was a professional whitewater hardshell kayakers, and he actually was a professional river kayaker, but also an ocean kayaker surfing waves in a hardshell ocean kayak. And he offered to give me lessons, and I took him up on it. I think when I was about 11 or 12 years old for the first time. And having the experience in an inflatable kayak is great. You can translate a lot of that over to a hard shell kayak, but getting in a hard shell kayak, you're strapped in, no water can get inside, and you flip over and you flip yourself back over, and if you do that in the middle of a rapid, it's a little intense. So you have to be comfortable with the water. You have to be comfortable upside down in the water and being under the water. And it's just been a giant passion of mine that I took to Colorado and continued to do out there as well. Very small community. It's been growing over the years, but it's a huge passion of mine. So I just, with the passion of rivers and Current being such an awesome name for a dispensary, I brought that up to Dallas, who Brandon mentioned earlier, as well as a few other people on my team. And they immediately were coming up with ideas and how awesome the name was with current deals that we're running, current specials, what's current in the market from a product standpoint. But also really the name being named after the current in a river. So they took it and ran with it, and we've got a lot of fun, just marketing ideas, but also that's what it's named after, just my passion for the rivers. And I think everyone here is passionate about rivers and just environmental sustainability. So it really worked in our portfolio of brands. But I think 4 brands is probably enough for a while. We don't we don't need any more than 4 brands, so we'll probably be sticking with these 4 brands for the foreseeable future.
So how has it been getting into that space? I mean, you have a good understanding of how it works with, on the product side, but having a retail operation has got to be a completely different ball game. How's it been going so far?
It's been going really well. When it opens, it's going to be a whole nother story. I think it's going to go very well. I just know there's going to be a lot of learning. There's going to be a big learning curve for me and my entire team, to be honest, everyone who's going to be involved in kind of the day-to-day operations of a retail license or a dispensary location. You know, really shout out to a lot of the people in the industry who have been willing to help us. Um, Obviously, Sarah Swim at Missouri Wild and Mario Gadea at Nature Med and Jack Haddix, formerly at Suede, but now at Sunrise. Laura Conley, who opened up a lot of the Suede dispensaries or helped open those up. And all those people, including more, if I didn't mention their name, they've all been very willing to just give us their feedback, whether it be on our floor plan or, our SOPs or um, little things here and there, mainly with our floor plan and all the different vendors that we're going to need for a dispensary location. It's been really awesome to have a network that we do in this Missouri industry. And Missouri is one of the best cannabis states in the country, arguably number 1 right now. And all of the people that I mentioned and everybody else, regardless of whether you have, your kind of average sell-through dispensary, which is still very busy in the grand scheme of things because it's Missouri, or you have one of the busiest dispensaries in the state. You have to know your stuff when you're running a dispensary in the Missouri market because no one's slow, and the busiest stores are some of the busiest in the country. So if you can get feedback from the friends that we work with in this industry, it's extremely valuable. But yeah, everything's been going super well. Um, I've gotten my mom, who is one of my investors in Teal, one of my only 2 family members that actually invested in Teal. She loves interior design. She's been helping out a lot with our other, our kind of architect as well as design firm, a gal named Linda, who has really been helping as well. But the two of them have kind of taken it and run with it from a design standpoint, which me and my COO, Tim Crook, could not be more happy about, because we are kind of the opposite of that. I would say that we are not that great at interior design. I think they are much better at it than we are.
Can you talk
So
about?
whenever
Oh, sorry, Brandon. I am so
You're
sorry,
good, man.
sir. Go right ahead.
mine was nonsensical. I was just gonna say, whenever you go and see how beautiful Current is inside, just remember that Ambush did that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where is the location? Are you starting from the ground up? Are you taking over another facility? Like, where can you get into that?
Yeah, so we did not have to build from the ground up, which is great.
Okay.
Just saved us
Yeah.
saved us some time and definitely some money. We found, so going back to when we were awarded the license, we had a different approach, and so did a few other companies. And we actually settled with the state on our appeals. So we ended up buying other people's appeals, combining our appeals. We had 8 appeals going all the way back to 2020, when we were only awarded the 3 manufacturing licenses, but we were denied all 5 of our retail and all 3 of our cultivation. For what reason? No one really knows, because we did have the experience, we did have the team ready to go for a full vertical, but we appealed the decision, the 8 decisions, I guess, that DCR made to not award us those licenses, and we fought those appeals for about 4 or 5 years. When we got to the beginning of 2024, we were actually offered a dollar amount for each one of our appeals, our 8 appeals. And I was like, I wonder why they're offering that money. And I spoke with that individual and kind of developed a strategy to go out and buy other people's appeals and then settle with the state. So we settled with the state. We dismissed 29 appeals in exchange for 1 dispensary license. And the way in which they did that was, I think, just by understanding the process, DHSS DCR wanted the exact same number of dispensaries in each one of the 8 congressional districts, just like they did it in the beginning, where they awarded 24 dispensaries in the 8 congressional districts, making 196. So when we went to settle, it was pretty much a blank landscape at that point. Like, they had, I think, 25 in one of the congressional districts, which I believe was District 5, Kansas City, like downtown, but all of the other ones were still at 24. So we could kind of determine where, as long as one of the 29 appeals that we settled with, as long as one of those was located in whatever district we were asking our dispensary to be in, we could shoot for, whichever district we wanted. So my COO, Tim Crook, lives down in South County. He's lived there for a long time. I think born and raised in South County, and he knows the area very well. So we actually had applied for, I think, 2 dispensaries in District 2 in that South County area. So that is where we asked, when we settled with the state, we said we'll dismiss 29 appeals in exchange for 1 dispensary in Congressional District 2. And he found kind of the only one open area in Congressional District 2, which was the one underserved area down there. And it was right at 255 and Telegraph Road, which happens to be probably one of the busier locations on this side of the state as well. Just with Telegraph being a major road, tons of cars using it every morning, every evening when they go to and from work. And then 255 being a major highway, actually 270 turns into 255 and goes across over into Illinois. So we'll be the first dispensary that you hit when you come over from Illinois on 255. And we're basically just 1 mile south of 255 on Telegraph, right next to the QT at the bottom of the hill. So, uh, pretty awesome location. We've got about 5,500 square feet. We're going to have a lot of express windows so people can place their order online and then just walk into our reception area and grab their product from the express window and take it and leave. And then we've got kind of endless parking as well, which is cool. We've got a pain management clinic is the only other retail location right next to ours in this small little strip mall. And there's only 2 of us. So pain management clinic takes up about 1/3 of the building, and then we'll take up about 2/3 of the building, about 5,500 square feet. It works perfectly. The pain management clinic's probably going to be sending over some patients.
Yeah,
And
I would say.
they're only open Monday through Thursday. We've got a couple tenants on the backside of our building, but none of them are retail. All of them are they're on the bottom level. Um, all of that, there's like a 2-person CPA firm. There's a couple other little small firms down there, and they're really only maybe take up 2 or 3 parking spots out of the entire lot, which is 100 parking spots total. So when our staff's there, and when the pain management clinic has, their staff on site as well, we'll still have 75, 80 open parking spots, which is fantastic for us. And then Friday through Sunday, I think we're really the only ones open. So we'll be able to do a lot of fun, 420, 710, Green Wednesday, those style events throughout the year using our big parking lot, which is exciting.
Wow. Do you have a grand opening set?
We don't have a grand opening set quite yet. So we were planning on doing a soft opening if we could before 420. Unfortunately, we were delayed by our security company a little bit, who didn't have the permit to put in our electrical, which was a little frustrating, but we were about 3 weeks delayed there. And then we were delayed slightly by the display case company, Jahabo, which is a local display case company. And again, not throwing any of these guys under the bus. They've both done amazing work for us, ABF being our security company and then Jahabo making our display cases. But we wouldn't want to be open on 420 anyways if we didn't have our processes dialed in. We want it to be a very, very good experience for the customers that are coming in for the first time to shop at Current. So, we're shooting for a soft opening sometime in the middle of May, with a grand opening probably being in June.
Got it.
Yep.
One of the things that obviously this helps with is you guys have been an independent manufacturer to this point. Market compression has forced reciprocity to the front of many discussions as far as buying wholesale and for retail and things like that. Have you seen or have you already started to have conversations about how that's going to be beneficial for you guys now that you do have a storefront?
Yeah, I guess the majority of the conversations I've been having first is starting to understand the I guess how busy some of these buyers are, because even though our dispensary's still a little ways out, let's say a month and a half or so, I've still been getting calls from a lot of different reps asking me when our dispensary is going to open and if we can have a meeting to start discussing products. And I'm like, guys, we can have those meetings, just we're not quite there yet. But other than that, I would say that from a reciprocity standpoint, I've been having those conversations. We are approaching it knowing that one store may not change our lives overnight by any means. Realistically, we'd probably need, 3 to 5 really busy stores for it to really change things drastically for us as a standalone manufacturer. Soon to be, standalone MIP with 1 dispensary. So getting closer to vertical operator. But, I think it will change things regardless. We're going to be able to sell our own products through our own store. We hope to have a very busy dispensary, that location, just based off some of the data that we've pulled from other locations in that area. Again, our goal was to set ourselves up in a location that did not step on anyone else's toes. And we have a radius around us by about 4 miles before you hit any other dispensary. So that was our goal. We know we want to work with, all the people that surround the Current dispensary as well. And I'm sure they want to work with us at the Current location as well. But yeah, going back to, again, reciprocity, I think it will help us. It's not going to change things drastically by any means. We won't be able to buy as much as a 5 or 10 store chain. We know that. But we will be able to, draw a lot of the data from our dispensary to understand what's going on in the market more on real time, which will really help us out here at the manufacturing facility. We will be able to carry, the products of verticals who have been supporting us for a long time. And we plan on doing that and carrying them as heavily as we can, just because we again, they've been supporting us. They've been keeping our lights on over here at our manufacturing facility. And that's our plan. You know, hopefully our dispensary is busy enough to where some of the larger verticals also look at it and realize that it is important to have their products on our shelves. And in return, maybe we can get some products back on their shelves. So, but again, just the amount of data we're going to be able to pull from a retail location is going to help us so much over here at the manufacturing site as well.
Absolutely. So with all of this going on, Adolphus, on top of it, you won Executive of the Year by the Greenway voters. 150,000 votes came in this year.
That's awesome.
And you pulled through. So, I mean, that's got to feel good.
It does. You know, we do just like every company, I think everybody does a push to kind of vote on Greenway as well. I mean, I'm honored. Don't get me wrong. I'm very honored. We are a small company. We have a lot less employees than most other companies out there in the market, unless they're a standalone dispensary or a standalone manufacturer. You'd compare those guys to us in terms of amount of employees, but we've got about 30 people, and 30 people isn't going to make or break any one of those categories when it comes to votes. So clearly there's people out there watching, and people understand the type of business that we run and understand, the things that we're doing to try and always take that step up, whether it be in quality of our products or products that differentiate us from others, or just the amount of customer service that our level of customer service, or how many places we can all be at once. We all wear a lot of hats, and we're doing a lot of different things. So I'm very honored. I think that any one of our executives or managers at our facility deserve that award, because everybody is doing such an incredible job. But again, very honored, appreciate everybody's vote. And we're just looking to continue to take the next step in the right direction with our business and increase our licensure, but also continue to just make some of the best products in the market.
I think for me, one of the reasons that I heard from some people that cast votes and things like that, and the top three vote getters for Executive of the Year, Tim and I discussed it in a previous episode, but three wildly different business models. The top three were you, Boston Dickerson from Vivid and Show Me Organics, and Brandon Green from C4. That's quite a bit different than what we've seen in other years. The top vote getters have been, historically John Pennington, Josh Mitchum, guys like that. Last year, Maddie from Heartland won both Woman of the Year and Executive of the Year. But outside of Maddie, it was, again, that full vertical kind of model as far as top vote getters and stuff. I think that one of the reasons we had such diversity in votes this year and nominations was because of how different the market has become over the last few years. And I think the success of Teal being an independent manufacturer in a world full of verticals and retail conglomerates and things like that, I think your advocacy and the way that you present your business and the passion that you have for both your people and your brand and your heritage, I think all of those things translate into why people look up to you and admire you and admire the way that you run your company and the type of company you have. Aside from Tim, who just constantly says that he doesn't like you, and just oh no, Tim Crook, his partner. No, I'm just kidding. But I genuinely, I believe that the reason that you guys are successful, because you and Tim, Dallas, the team has all bought in to the same ideology and the same approach to camaraderie, rather than competition.
Yep.
You guys as a company, both camaraderie within the company, but outside of the company, partnering with other brands like Sense and Suede for the Infused Dinner series, partnering with um, people like Tyler Hannigan and the Dickerson boys and things like that. I see the relationships that you guys have, and I think that that's something that makes everybody stronger.
Yep.
And I think it's relatively unique to the Missouri market. I've heard you guys speak about it before last year at MJ Unpacked. I don't remember if it was you or Montana that brought it up, but one of the things that was spoken about during your panel was how this market, more than most markets, everybody really does have a lot of the team first mentality. Like, let's do this together. Let's make each other better. Let's help each other as much as we can. And so I think that resonates with people, and I think that's a large part of why people voted for the top people that they did.
Yeah, honestly, I think you nailed it. I really looking at this market now and where we were back in 2020, or there were some companies who opened in late 2020, and then the rest. There were a lot of companies who opened in 2021. One of them being us. I think we were still pretty early to market with manufactured product, even though we didn't get them out into the market until about August of 2021 as a full manufacturing facility. I think we were one of the earlier standalone MIPS to get product out into the market. And just from back then until now, this market has changed drastically, although it is still one of the best markets in the country, arguably the world right now for cannabis, just based off the way it was structured and the operators within the market. There has been a ton of consolidation since 2020, 2021 until now. And to be a standalone manufacturer that has maintained, we saw great growth when we went from medical to a recreational market. I think everybody did. Um, but we still see our numbers year over year as a state as a whole continue to increase. Now, we have continued to see our relationships grow and continued to see our numbers grow, I'd say steadily, but not in a way that, some of these other vertical companies have probably seen their revenue numbers grow. But just the fact that we can continue to remain successful, continue to come out with new and exciting products, and continue to do everything we can to grow, um, whether that means our licensure or whether that means our revenue number, which again, revenue number hasn't grown that much since the recreational, market opened up here in Missouri. But again, we're a standalone manufacturer. We've lost some retail doors due to reciprocity. And in exchange, we've seen the relationships with other dispensaries, other retail groups grow, because as we lose doors, those people are finding where they can buy Teal and Hi-Five and Kusch. And they're actually going to those dispensaries to make sure they can still buy the products that they've become accustomed to and that they have, really grown, um, I guess, just brand loyalty towards. So that's just reassuring in itself. And of course, we've done the right things in the market and have engaged the right way with the other owners and executives and buyers and retail level, all the bud tenders. We've engaged the right ways to keep our name out there, keep people excited about our brands and products, and keep them engaged with our company. But it's, if you can, and it's not just me, it's our entire team. If we can continue to do what we're doing now and then increase our licensure, we're going to continue to grow as a company. It's not some rocket ship for us compared to maybe some other groups who are big verticals or have access to a lot more capital so they can go and acquire a lot more dispensaries quickly. But clearly we're doing something right. And if you're a standalone MIP and you've been able to stay in it, and remain a healthy company, uh, you're doing something right. So hats off to my team for sticking in there and just continuing to have the passion and doing what they love doing, because it will pay off in the end. It's just a little bit longer game for us than it is for maybe some of these other large companies that have more reciprocal power. And then really just the last thing I wanted to say there is the relationships in this industry. You brought that up as well. It's huge. I mean, that is arguably one of the most important things in any industry, but in this industry, being a limited license industry, being a very small, tight knit community, and having again one of the best trade associations in the country right now for cannabis, keeping everybody together and being able to network with one another. We've gone out of our way too to make sure that we're all like, some of us who are from other companies but are also now friends, make sure to keep those friendships going. We did our fourth annual ski trip with a bunch of guys in the industry who are friends, not excluding any of the amazing females in the space, but we just have a good group of guy friends who, have gone on now 4 ski trips for the last 4 years. And it's the Dickerson boys, it's Mario Gadea from Nature Med, it's Alex Paulson from Easy Mountain. It's just a big Willie Vlasic, from Vlasic Labs. It's a big group of guys who have really created a friendship that, regardless of if we're working together or not on the business side, we're still friends, and it's super important. Same thing goes for a lot of the other people who may have not made it to that trip. We're all extremely good friends, tight knit community, and that's part of it. It makes, work fun also.
I've never wanted a reality TV series more than of the ski trip with that crew.
Yeah, it would be
I
something.
that'd be my version of keeping up with the Kardashians. I'd just be like, look at them go.
Well, Adolphus, we'll leave you with this last question. This still blows my mind. I know you had the flower line ABV when you were in Denver, but how giddy were you to be able to use Kusch as the name of your flower line? Like, did you envision that, like 20 years ago? Like, if I ever do this, this is perfect. It's gonna tug at the strings of Missourians. It's an iconic name. It's brilliant. So I mean, I was just curious how long you were salivating to use that name.
A long time, honestly.
Yeah.
So back when I launched, and again, it hopefully one day it is truly a flower line, but right now it's pre-rolls, it's packs of roll joints, and then
Right.
more our more cost conscious vape line. So our distillate vape line, 1 gram cartridges, 1 gram all-in-one vapes. And it's been something that I've wanted to use for years and years, to be completely honest with you. We did a trademark and infringement analysis back in, I did with, because at the time, ABV was just a one-person company, and it always was. I didn't have any employees. I pretty much contracted everything out. And after my time at Keef Cola in Colorado, which was the third company I worked for in the space, but arguably one of the best experiences I had. And at the time, my longest tenure in the space before I moved to Pure Greens up in Salida, Colorado. After I left Keef Cola, I went to Pure Greens. They were based out of Salida. Also, one of an amazing experience. Just the people who ran the company, still to this day, are just advisors to me, and really great people. But I essentially cut my salary in half to allow me, and they hired me on as director of brand and product development and to help run their sales team. And because I took the salary cut, they allowed me to launch my first brand through their infrastructure at Pure Green. So I didn't have to have my own licenses. I didn't have to have my own infrastructure, but I was hands on with them every other week, because I was feet on the ground in Denver and they were in Salida, but I'd be up there every other week, especially as we were getting closer to launch the ABV brand and launch my products out of their facility. I was hands on with them in production a lot before we got to the point of launching that brand. And before I launched the brand, I went through a full trademark and infringement analysis with, I I believe actually it was Armstrong Teasdale, or it was Hush Blackwell out in Colorado, and they advised against a long list of names. One being Kusch. And I took their advice. We went in a little bit different direction, called it ABV Cannabis Company. That was kind of a play on my initials, but also kind of a play on alcohol by volume and getting into the cannabis space. And, it worked. It was a cool name. People liked the name, people liked the packaging and the logo. But when it came down to it, there were other names that I wanted to use much more than I wanted to use that name. And when we came back to Missouri, that brand was successful in the Colorado space for about 4 years. It never reached a point of it being unsuccessful. What happened was I just had invested everything I had and all of my time when I left Colorado, and actually opened up this facility I'm sitting in right now. I invested everything in Missouri and my team here. So I actually picked up operations in Colorado, which really meant some equipment, some empty packaging, and all of the non-cannabis components that made up ABV, and brought it back to Missouri to start manufacturing under, Teal Labs here in Missouri. So when I did that, we wanted to, push through some of the old packaging, because weirdly enough, it was actually compliant here in Missouri with one additional sticker on it. It was compliant here in Missouri, and it was compliant out in Colorado. So we got through as much of that packaging as we could, and simultaneously did the rebranding to Kusch. And, at that point in time, I was willing to push the boundaries a little bit more, and still am. It's my last name. We're changing a letter in the last name to, kind of show that history and heritage, bring that history and heritage through the name, but also have it Kusch is just what a lot of people think. When they think of cannabis, they think of Kusch. They think of Kusch being another kind of, name for just good cannabis flower. So it worked perfectly. It's kind of a play on the last name and history and heritage, and in the most positive way possible. Just, you can expect a lot of good things from that last name, just consistency and quality. And that's what we want to, portray with the Kusch brand as well. And although it is more our cost conscious brand, it's, we look at it just like we would any other brand. We want the hardware for the vapes to be very quality, and minimal return rate, and safe for the consumers to use. We want the oil, the formulations on the inside, although it is distillate, it's more cost conscious. A lot of people are buying distillate products because they're very high in THC. So wanting to make sure that the terpenes we infuse are all natural, and some portion of them cannabis derived, just to produce the best distillate vape product that we can. And then with the pre-roll packs, we've got the 3-pack, which is like our weekend pack, and the 7-pack, which is our week-long pack. They're whole flower, never shake or trim. So they are very premium. That's a very premium product as well. So hopefully everybody loves the name. Hopefully when you see it for the first time, you do kind of immediately get that correlation between just a long history of, a family who was, I would say, was pretty good at launching consumer goods. And, now hopefully we can translate that exact same thing over into cannabis.
I think that the attention you pay to detail and tradition is one of the reasons that you guys have had the success that you've had. And I think that if the same level of attention to detail and tradition and values goes into Current, I think you guys are probably going to be one of the most iconic retail developments in the space. So I look forward to that. I've always been a big fan of what you do, but even more than your products, I'm always a big fan of your stories and the way that you relate your life experiences and your business experiences to the way that you handle yourself. And I'm always super stoked to get the opportunity to talk to you. And since I know you're such a big outdoors guy and things like that, one thing that we've been asking a few people over the last few episodes is about, what do you listen to? What's your playlist? What concerts do you go to and stuff like that? I do not kayak. So I have no knowledge of whether or not you can have headphones on while you're spinning through waters and things like that. That seems dangerous. But I do own several skateboards, and I've managed to stay up on them a few times. And same thing in snow. So do you have a playlist that you listen to whenever you're snowboarding?
Oh man. Yeah, people make fun of me a lot because I am about as old school as it comes when it comes to like downloading music. And the reason people laugh at me is because I don't pay for Spotify. So when my ads come on and I'm the one like playing a playlist, everyone is like, "You really don't pay for Spotify?" I'm like, "Guys, I know. I'm stuck in like the 90s, I guess." But I've got a couple playlists, and specifically, um, I'm more of like when I'm snowboarding or kayaking, either more of a hip hop type of person. A lot of Big X the Plug right now. A lot of you know, just there's a few different rappers that I like a lot right now. Also, growing up or spending the majority of my adult life in Colorado, big into like house music and those EDM house music. Nothing really uh, hardcore, I would say, but that genre of music has always appealed to me. But I have a pretty diverse um, palette for music, I would say. I listen to a lot of country as well, just being that's kind of maybe the Missouri boy in me and growing up on a farm. Definitely listen to a lot of country. So pretty diverse. But when I'm snowboarding, mainly hip hop.
I think you'd get
Love it.
along well with both of my kids. The little one is super into Galantis.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Um, and the older one is really into MF Doom and Ski Mask the Slump God right now.
Okay. Awesome.
And then I don't know if you've heard it or not, but Logic just dropped a new track recently called WMD,
Okay.
and the rhythm to it and stuff kind of feels like 90s hip hop.
Hell yeah. I'll have to look that one up.
Love it. Well, Adolphus, thank you so much for your time. Continued success. We cannot wait to go visit Current when it opens, and congratulations again on Executive of the Year. Well done, sir.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I really appreciate the time. This was fun.
Good. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Alrighty. Thanks, guys.